Hi, everybody. Good morning or good afternoon, depending on what time zone you're in. My name is Matt Brennan, and I'm a professor of popular music here at the School of Culture and Creative Arts at the University of Glasgow. And this session is a live session where we're going to be answering questions and discussing the three postgraduate taught degrees that are on offer here. So the Master's in Music Industries, the Master's in Creative Sound Design and Audiovisual Media, and the Master's in Musicology. And I've got some colleagues and some current students on those degrees who are on the stream with us today. And I'll maybe just get folk to very briefly introduce themselves, say what program they're coming from, and maybe one line about their research interests, and maybe start with Nick.
Thanks, Matt. Yeah, morning, everybody, or good afternoon. So my name is Nick Fells. I'm a professor in the music department at Glasgow. I'm a professor of sonic practice, and I am convener of the Masters in Creative Sound Design and Audiovisual Media. I'm a composer and electronic music person. I work with spatial audio and with different kinds of interactive technologies and collaboration to make artwork and sound design projects and so on. So that's me.
Okay, and we had Vera here a moment ago, but I think her rectangle has just disappeared. So Vera is the convener for the Masters in Musicology, and I suspect she's experiencing a technical difficulty right now. I know she's beaming in from Argentina, I believe, at the moment. Oh, and there she's reappearing just now. Vera, can you hear us? Hello, Vera.
Hello, Vera. Hi, can you hear me well?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Good. Well, I missed you because I couldn't hear before. So I'll just introduce myself, and then I think you're introducing each other. I'm Vera Volkovic. I'm the MS in Musicology convener, so it's very nice to be here. Thank you, Matt.
Great. And could we move over to Stark, maybe?
Hello, good morning, good afternoon. Again, depending on the time zone you're watching us. My name is Stark, and I'm pursuing right now creative sound design and audiovisual media. And yeah, I'm like, you can say I'm a composer. That's all I can say. Composing a lot of the things, be it in audiovisuals or be it in instruments, be it in sounds. So yeah, that's about me.
Great, thanks. Maybe over to Kieran.
Hi, I'm Kieran. I'm studying I'm on the musicology course at the moment. Mainly studying kind of cultural identity, whether it's countercultural or more studying the side of ecomusicology, so interactions with non-human animals and human cultures.
Great, thanks, Kieran. Yeah, I'd be curious to hear more about that if we get a chance later on in the chat. Hiten, over to you.
Yeah, hi everybody. I am Hiten. I come from India, and I am right now studying the postgraduate taught program in music industries. And right now it's the dissertation period, and my interests mostly cover not only performance and composition, but also cultural policy. And I'm also trying to do some work on UNESCO Cities of Music. So yeah, that's about me.
That's great. Okay, thanks everyone. So next, I'm just going to briefly ask the other conveners to give just a little 2-minute snapshot of what their degree is all about, and maybe we'll start with you, Vera, if that's okay.
Yes, thank you, Matt. So our program actually is very interesting because we cater to lots of tastes, if you want. We study music in a very broad sense, although we have lots of specialists that are have a more historical approach. We have people doing performance studies. We also do, well, I particularly specialize on Latin American art music. We have people doing opera studies, and we understand musicology in the broadest sense possible. So we approach it very interdisciplinary, understanding music as part of culture, and trying to connect it with different disciplines. So the course itself has a two-part structure. So students will have 3 courses that are compulsory, and then they have 3 courses that they can choose from any other programs, which I think leaves a lot of liberty for the student to choose their own interests. So I guess Kieran will be able to talk a bit more about that as a student and his experience, hopefully. But that's basically what we do. I hope I gave a brief idea of the course, but I'm happy to answer as many questions as you have. Thank you.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks so much, Vera. And yeah, I know that you're maybe getting text comments about this, but if you do have questions, please just post them into the chat. And then once we've done these brief introductions, we will do our best to answer any questions that you guys have. But first, just a wee overview of Nick, your master's degree. What's that all about?
Yeah, sure. So creative sound design and audiovisual media. I mean, the topic is in the title, really, but the program broadly emphasizes creative practice and tries to sort of upskill people to develop their own creative practice in whatever aspect of sound design and creative audiovisual media interests them, really. I mean, the program is made up of 5 compulsory courses covering aspects like sound shaping, sort of working with the material of sound to create different kinds of textures and shapes, working with different forms of technology, working with live performance and the pressures that brings in terms of sound design, and working with live audiovisual media. It looks at experimental forms of audiovisual media creative work. It looks at also potentially sound in a narrative film context. And it also looks at sound recording as a kind of medium for sound design. So looking at experimental forms of sound recording and field recording and location recording and so on. The program culminates in the portfolio, which is the sort of independent project that students do during the summer part, the last part of the program. And that's really an opportunity that students get to really pursue their own identity as an artist or a sound designer. But all of the courses in the program are assessed through creative practice. So all of the courses, apart from perhaps there's one course called Thinking Through Sound and Media, which is more about written work and kind of thinking about the aesthetics and philosophy around sound design. But other than that, the program is assessed through creative practice. So all of the courses have a sort of creative, practical project that you do as the main part of the assessment for that course. So that's really the program in a nutshell.
Brilliant. Thanks, Nick. Yeah, and I'm the convener of the MSc in Music Industries. And that degree is really about exploring the music industries with a focus on popular music from a few different perspectives: history, research methods and theory, contemporary debates, and also the place of music within cities and urban planning. So in your autumn semester, you guys would have 3 core courses. The first would be popular music research, which is really about understanding popular music in society and introducing you guys to some key research methods to studying that you might use on your dissertation later on in the following summer. You would do a course in popular music history, which is really focused on how working in music has changed over the past century, and trying to be really precise about which disruptions to working in music might be new to the 2020s, for instance, and then which challenges in working in music are actually perennial and have kind of persisted over decades. And that allows us to kind of navigate what might be, a genuinely new challenge versus just a persisting challenge that people have been facing working in the industry for a long time, and some strategies on maybe how to address that. The third course you do in the autumn is Global Music Industries. And that's really an overview of the recorded, live, and publishing sectors in the industries, but also taking into consideration that the way the music industries work, changes slightly according to which national, regional context you're in. So focusing on some case studies of different countries. So thinking about, of course, what it's like to work in music in the UK and the US, which have traditionally been the centers of the popular music industry for the 20th century, but then doing case studies on other countries as well, new emerging markets, to give us a more broader perspective. And it's also worth saying that our student cohort is usually quite international as well. So people will be bringing in their own international perspectives from their countries of origin as they're studying with us on the course. In the second semester, we would be doing one core course, which is music cities. That's all about understanding the idea of a music city as a policy concept, also understanding how music ecosystems in different cities might compare to one another, thinking about how we might map music and working in music in different cities. So that would be a useful skill for when folks return to your country or city of origin, that you have a sense of how to really deploy some of the skills that you've gained in the degree and apply them to a local context. In semester 2, you would also take a couple of electives. One we would recommend if you weren't sure about which one to take would be popular music politics. You could also jump onto a course in, say, the musicology degree, doing current issues in musicology. And there are other options from across the college as well that you guys could take up. And then in the summer, you guys would progress to your dissertation, where you would work on a substantial piece of independent research, and you'd be supervised by one of your lecturers over that time. So that's music industries in a nutshell. And hopefully now you guys have just a brief sense of how the 3 postgraduate taught degrees in music work here. And I'll just look over to see if we've got any questions. And I think we've got a couple just now. So maybe we'll start with one of those. And I've also got some questions for some of the students on this degree myself. But here is one asking, what careers have recent music alumni gone on to pursue? Is Glasgow a good place for a career in music? And that's maybe a question for the conveners of the degrees, just thinking about some of our previous alumni and some career destinations that they've had. Nick Rivera, any thoughts on those?
Yeah, I mean, careers, speaking from the perspective of the sound design program, graduates from that program tend to, we talk about portfolio careers, but people go on to sort of develop their own practice, often as independent sound designers or artists working in collaboration with other organizations and working in collaboration with other individuals. Some people do go on into what we might call sort of jobs in the industry. So, like a sort of clear-cut employment situation with an employer. But that tends to be relatively rarer because of the nature of the industry, really, and the nature of the field. So we've had people go on to work for sort of production companies, for instance, video and audio production companies and post-production and stuff like that. But a lot of people are sort of working more as freelancers in a way, developing their own practice and working on a sort of contract basis. And there are examples of people coming to the masters as well, already with some kind of background, a professional background, sometimes in sort of podcasting, radio kind of areas, or being involved in music festivals and so on, but wanting to get more into the technology side of things. So there's it's quite a complex picture really in terms of careers. And it tends to be a little bit organic in that sense. But the masters, I think people are seeing as a useful stepping stone into developing, their next steps in the field.
That's great, Nick. Thanks. Vera, any thoughts? I'm happy to answer this question as well.
Yes, so a lot of our alumni have different paths. Like sometimes the skills you learn, our program is very research-based mostly. So it gives you skills for different types of jobs. A lot of them can go into, again, also the music industry, but maybe a more administrative side, going into, I don't know, jobs that are connected to managing institutions or music institutions or things like that. But a lot of also our alumni go into PhDs and into a more academic career. I guess that might be different from Nick's perspective, I don't know. But they also, I guess, pursuing a PhD is also quite common as well as a next step. I don't know about you, Matt, and yeah.
It's quite common in sound design as well. I mean, we've had quite a few people go from the program on into further research study and sort of practice-based PhDs and so on. Yeah.
That's great. Yeah, and I'd say the same applies for music industries as well. Part of what the master's degree, at least the music industries degree, is trying to do is, hopefully be useful to people who are interested in one of two paths, either working in music themselves or pursuing research at a postgraduate level and skilling them up to make that bridge towards PhD level study. But there are lots of different destinations for students on our degrees. I did a little scan on LinkedIn actually, just because I thought that this this question might come up, in fact, and I can say maybe one thing to say is I don't know with 100% certainty where all of our alumni have ended up, because they're not all in touch, but some are. So I can tell you that since COVID, graduates from the music industry's degree have gone on to work in a few different areas of work. Events is one of them. We've got folk working, for instance, at 432 Presents, which is a concert hall in, oh, sorry, I'm just getting a wee technical, a pop-up window. I'll start that again. So we've got someone working at 432 Presents, which is a concert promoter in Scotland. Corinthian Sports, which I thought was a kind of an interesting destination for someone to end up, but they're working in luxury experiences in sport and entertainment for a company in Glasgow. Another one working for an event security company in the United States. We have an alumni working in artist management on the marketing side at an artist management firm called Manana. We have a couple of students, in fact, three working at 3 different record labels. One at Promised Land, which is down in London, I believe. A dance music label called Soma. Another independent label called Last Night from Glasgow, which is locally based, but actually probably Scotland's biggest independent record label. We have folk working in marketing for an entertainment law firm, Pryor Cashman in New York. We have someone who's gone on to become a QA tester for Rockstar Games. We have people working in the charity and third sector, the European Music Council, Belfast Trad, which I think is a sort of community arts program, giving people access to trad teaching and learning. People working in audio sales at Rode Microphones and DNB Audio. And then a variety of people that we sort of, as Nick and Vera were mentioning earlier, who have gone on to maybe become PhD researchers and then sometimes lecturers at universities, music tutors, freelance musicians, so portfolio careers of the sort that Nick was talking about. So lots of different destinations, I guess, is the summary there. I can see a couple of other questions coming in from the live chat, but I really want to make sure that we talk to the students who are on the chat here as well, because that's probably a really important way for you guys to not just hear from staff who are working here year in and year out, but actually, what has the experience been like for Stark and for Hitten and Kieran over the past year. So maybe I'll try and weave that into one of the questions in the chat, but broaden it out a little bit. And the question that was submitted is, how connected are the programs to Glasgow's music and cultural industries, and are there opportunities for placements or live projects? So while I would say there are no formal placements as part of the degrees here, we're very well connected to the wider music and cultural industries as staff, and students will have direct experiences of what the music scene in Glasgow has been like, who they have interacted with, what sort of opportunities they've encountered while they're here. And yeah, I might throw over to Hitten first to talk about what it's been like. You know, you're not from the UK, you've moved over here, not knowing loads of people, I presume. What has that experience been like on the ground? What opportunities have come up for you over the past year?
Right. Thanks, Matt. So firstly, I'll just give you a bit of background about myself. So I come from India, and previously I had my education, that's my master's, in a completely different field, which was international relations. And then I thought of moving to Glasgow because I really was interested in working in the cultural policy sector. And so I came to Glasgow, and the MSc Music Industries kind of gave me a very good balance of both performance as well as understanding the industry and going out and making new networks and connections in the cultural sphere. And Glasgow happens to be a great city because through the music department, although there are no formal placements, but the department is very well connected to all the stakeholders operating within Glasgow. So I got to meet record label owners, I got to meet people from Glasgow City Council, Glasgow Life, and it's been my good luck that I got opportunities to play with a group called the Musicians in Exile, which is a community project based in Glasgow. And so that gave me an opportunity to play live music, also get into the Glasgow City Hall at the Civic Music Reception, where I could talk to different industry stakeholders, analyze the policies. And so it's been nothing short of amazing. And also as a performing musician, I think Glasgow has a lot of international music events as well as local grassroots music events happening throughout the year. You get to make networks, you find people with your own niche. So that really helps in your music making because there's a lot that is on offer over here in Glasgow. And the university department is that well connected, and it would give you opportunities to take part in all of these places. And that's actually a very big learning experience for me as an international student in Glasgow.
That's awesome, Hitten, and super encouraging to hear, I have to say. Yeah. So Stark, maybe over to yourself. I guess what we're really asking is, you know, what's the music scene like in Glasgow for a student who's kind of arriving here? And then what opportunities are there to develop beyond the classroom experience?
Okay. Hello. So again, I'll give a very basic brief about myself. I'm also from India. And the thing is, I was a journalist before this. So I did my graduation, bachelor's in journalism. I worked in that field for years. And then at some point I realized, no, I need to follow the thing which I always wanted to do. That is my passion. So I started looking forward to the music things. And specifically, I just found, I don't know how, but sometimes it happens and Google shows you the very right thing to you. And I just found Glasgow, University of Glasgow. I was like, okay, looked into the course. And when I came here, like into this course, there have been three major things which has happened with me. Point number one, I met different people from a very different background of music, which first of all gave me, or you can say enlightened me with the ideas of like, okay, this also can be done in music. This also can happen in music. You meet different musicians, you meet different people, not only specifically musicians, but artists, you can say. So they're not specifically related to artists. I also worked with a theater group here as well, like around a month or 2 months ago, which was by the Bulgarian Society. So I worked with them as a like live sound and audiovisual guy. I worked with them, and I learned a lot of them because again, the theater the play which it was more about like Eastern European Slavic thing. So I learned a lot about them. I learned a lot about the cultural thing. So that is one thing I'm gonna say. I also met musicians from different field. and a different type of musicians. So it gave me a lot of the opportunity to meet people from different, you can say, different background, which gives you an idea. Oh, this also can be done. Oh, are the things which you can also learn. So yeah, that's so far I have done. Thank you.
Great. Thanks so much, Stark. Kieran, how about yourself?
So I've lived around Glasgow my whole life, but I feel you start to notice these niches that Stark and Heaton are talking about more going through. Maybe thinking about like my experience of the musicology course is you'll be hearing about these different people's interactions with music, different kind of like social kind of issues or discussions that might come up, and it might make you think, okay, where can I actually see this in the music scene? Myself kind of like interact with these spaces, whether it be more kind of like experimental kind of like identity stuff. I don't know, that's quite vague, but yeah, just what I was saying, like, there's been plenty of times that I've been maybe like researching something, and you're gonna find it in Glasgow. You have people that I guess because people are filtering through this city so much, everyone's kind of got like a mixed bag. Whether they're coming from a different place, or they've, like me, have lived here the whole life, but has been able to like meet and interact with different musicians from everywhere. So I feel like you're always going to find the thing that you want to find in some niche little corner, and those people have like a kind of strong cultural basis somewhere, and but all with this kind of like Glaswegian mix. It's like as soon as you're here for a while, you start getting that kind of that's that feeling. And there's a lot of like the local band scene or music scene, whether it's like electronic, I don't know, whatever genre, you're gonna find it, you know. And especially on the course, when you get to meet people and people are actively in groups or working on projects, meeting people like I think I went to Heaton's like musicians in exile. Sorry, sorry if I'm butchering that name. Kind of like what's it called? Oh my god, I forgot the name. Kaylee. That's embarrassing coming from here. I'm forgetting the word Kaylee. Where you get to meet all these different people, and yeah, I'm just kind of going in loops now, but I think that answers the question. Hopefully.
No, it does, absolutely. That's super helpful. And it's maybe worth saying as well that you may have gathered that not all the staff are originally from Glasgow themselves, and so we have experiences of moving here as well as people being interested in music. And speaking for myself, I've music is my life, and I've stayed in Glasgow for a reason. For me, what I tend to say to folk who have just moved here is, and who are really into music, is that it's a big enough city that no matter what you're into, you're going to find other people who are into that same musical subculture, no matter how strange or weird it might be. But it's also a small enough city that you're actually able to embed yourself into those scenes and come up against people. If you think of this idea of like 6 degrees of separation, this theory that that we're only ever separated from any other human being in the world by 6 different points of contact, and you can kind of link it up. Well, in Glasgow's music scene, you're only ever maybe 2 degrees of separation away from almost anyone working in music, right? And so I constantly have experiences of students who are coming up to me saying, "Oh, hey, I met so-and-so," and this will be someone that either John, who has worked in music for several decades in Glasgow, who's another lecturer on the music industries, or myself, who's lived in Glasgow and have been working and participating in the city's music scene for several decades. We're likely to be able to either make those introductions or have points of contact already. And I think the same it can be said for most of the staff in the music department as well. Nick and Vera, I don't know if you had anything you wanted to add about that, but
Yeah, I mean, just briefly, I mean, I think Glasgow is, as Matt says, it's a kind of ideal-sized city for sort of getting involved in informal networks, as Stark and Heaton and Kieran have all sort of articulated. Brushing up against networks and becoming close to individuals and organisations involved in music in Glasgow is quite easy and quite organic. Because of the proximity of venues and the kind of volume of activity that is going on. There are a lot of people doing a lot of things across quite a lot of venues for the size of the city. So that makes it, quite an exciting and useful place to be, actually, I think, from a musical perspective and a wider artistic perspective as well. And the sort of crossing over of music and other art forms and other kind of community activities and community groups and so on is quite strong here as well, I would say.
Yes, and I also want to add a quick thing. I mean, we're also very global. I mean, there are lots of things in Glasgow, and also we're very well connected with the rest of the world, which is really interesting. We have lots of networks within the university that we are expanding. So it's a good place to not just explore Glasgow, but also to meet people from everywhere in the world. So I think I'm quite new to Glasgow, and I'm going to be very honest. When I arrived in Glasgow, I didn't know much about the city, and I was so pleasantly surprised about the music scene, the research scene, the university. And so it's a really great place to be.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks very much, Vera. It's maybe also worth pointing folk who are watching this towards a map that was made by staff and students of all the different music organizations that exist in Glasgow. And if you go to glasgowmusicmap.com, we've got a pretty comprehensive and just published map of over 800 different music organizations in this city alone. That you can kind of divide by category, so you can see how they're spread out over the city, or you can use it just as a kind of directory. I noticed, for instance, like if you try and filter these organizations by festivals in the city, there are 48 music and arts festivals that happen in the city over the calendar year. So that's almost one a week. There's lots of activity that's happening in the city, and to kind of get an overview of what that might look like just in terms of the names of the different companies and organizations here, that online map might be helpful to some of you. I can see we've got another question in the chat here, which is, I come from a different undergraduate background. I went to art school. Can I still apply for one of these programs? And the answer is yes, absolutely. I work here, and my undergrad degree is in English and philosophy. So yeah, you'll find that to be very common, actually. Some of the students who are on these postgraduate degrees will have prior degrees in music, but oftentimes they don't. And I found that, at least on the music industries degree, a lot of students are maybe coming from a different background and wanting to pair that background with a skill set that might be more music specific. So I'm thinking that we've had students, come from accounting degrees who now work in accounting, but for a music company, or in marketing, who now do marketing, but for a music company of some kind. Maybe it's just worth briefly reminding ourselves. I know that Stark, you said you were coming from a journalism background. Yeah. How's that transition been for you, from someone coming from without a music degree but onto a music department? Overwhelming, daunting? What's it been like?
Okay. So it's you can say overwhelming. Also, I was pretty much mentally prepared. This is again to the people, to the students who are watching this. It's my humble suggestion, not compulsory you have to do it, but a humble suggestion. If you're coming and you don't have any background in music, that is super fine. But I would say start working a bit by yourself. doing a bit of the research, you can make it. One fun thing which I did before coming up here is I was building my own portfolio into the music. I was like, although I was working as a journalist, I was still the musician. I was working with different musicians. I was working as a producer, or you can say as a composer with them, as an audio engineer, a bit of it here and there. So I got basic hands-on like work. However, when this transition happened, it was quite overwhelming, because again, you're doing a day job, 9 to 5, sitting in front of the laptop, writing the newses for the newspaper, and suddenly you start writing songs, and then you have to think about the sounds, think about like, okay, this is a different thing you have to do. So so it's a humble suggestion that you can start working on yourself. Also, if you, let's say, if you even don't have anything and you just don't know, that's all fine, because this course, which is like the one which I'm doing, which is creative sound design and audiovisual media, will also cover things from the scratch. So you're in a very good position, according to me.
That's great. Thanks, Stark. Hitten, you said you were from international relations previously. How's that transition been for you?
Right. So after completing my degree in international relations, I was also a performing musician. And the transition for me has absolutely been splendid, because like when I was performing back in India and then coming to Glasgow to the music industries program, it's also so research based that I had to do a lot of studying and academic readings on music, which was absolutely something that I never did before. And at the same time, I also got the equal opportunity to play music, because of all the facilities the universities would provide as for the students who are interested to take this program up. Just know that whichever degree you choose, you have access to absolutely fantastic studio facilities, digital resources, libraries, and you can book them, use them according to your own time. And also, one thing that actually helped me a lot in this, which I never experienced before, is that university keeps sending you mails and free tickets to a lot of other talks across other universities. Like you would also get tickets and get to hear amazing talks at the Royal Conservatoire of Scotland, attend operas. So yeah, if you have an interest in music and you have an interest in any other area for that matter, you can actually, there's a broad scope to blend it all through and find your own niche through it. So I think there's a lot of independence and a lot of guidance, as well as heavy academic research and background that the course really helps you with.
That's great. Thanks very much, Hitten. Kieran, I forget, were you coming from a prior music degree yourself or something different?
Yeah, I was on the Bachelor of Music with Glasgow before, yeah. But I do know the specific Emma on our course comes from an English literature background and is like handles everything great, like always has like really interesting work that's produced. And I feel also because it's like it's a close knit course, that if Emma was to ever have an issue with kind of the more like analytical side, like there's people to just give like a quick explanation, and also the research doesn't have to go down the kind of music theory side as such. I definitely can't do it whenever it's like a few days away from completing an assignment and I'm trying to go over a score. I usually don't side with that kind of work. So I feel like maybe like the first semester, if people are coming from a non kind of like music background, might be a little bit daunting when you're hearing some of the kind of like past scholars and how musicology was studied and like with them. But it's such a diverse range that you can kind of make it by without the music background. Sometimes, like I come from a music background, and sometimes I struggle with putting the music stuff actually into my essays and not just talking about external things and getting a bit too, existential about things. But yeah, I feel like even with musicology, people can handle it fine without that music theory stuff.
That's great. Thanks very much, Kieran. Got another question here from the online chat, which is, how practical is each program alongside the academic and research elements? And maybe, Nick, do you want to field this one from your perspective?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, the sound design program is very practical. As I mentioned earlier, every one of the component courses, the 6 component courses. Well, I should say the 5 core courses is practical primarily. You know, the assessment. Well, apart from thinking through sound and media, so there's one which is more about writing, I suppose. But certainly 4 of those courses are intensely practical. The classes are sort of practical workshops. You're learning about particular ways of using software and hardware to achieve certain ends. You're encouraged to experiment with your own material and you develop your own processes, sort of using the classes as a springboard. And to really develop your own practice. And if you already have a practice like a music production or recording practice or something, or compositional practice, we're sort of trying to sort of push you further in that, push you towards experimentation, because you can afford to do it here in this environment. It's, if you like, a bit of a safe environment for experimentation. Where you can afford to try things and fail and actually learn from the failing, and then take those learnings, if you like, and apply them in your major project towards the end of the degree program in the summer in your portfolio. So it's a very creative course, I think, and there's quite a lot of space in it, quite a lot of time in it for developing your own creative identity. So yeah, it's a very practical course, I would say. The bits that aren't so much are, as I said, there's one course called Thinking Through Sound and Media, which is looking at writing on sound as a significant cultural medium, as a sort of cultural phenomenon. And that does get quite philosophical, quite theoretical, but it doesn't really, in our program, it doesn't really touch very much on what we might think of conventionally as music theory or music history. It's more about histories of sound and sound and culture and philosophical approaches to sound, I would say. So it doesn't really require a particular musical background to do that.
Great, thanks very much, Nick. Vera, how about your perspective on this?
Yes, so the musicology course is much more research focused. So everyone will have to write lots of essays. I have to be very honest about that. But there are very interesting creative sides of it, because one of the courses that the students have to take in the first semester is research skills in digital musicology. And so they have to create a project, a digital project, and we get very interesting things from creating a map to see, I don't know, movement of people or sounds. We have people doing databases or different ways of approaching music through digital means. And we get really, the students get really creative, and that's really nice. And the same with the topics of the essays. Some essays are more clearly structured, but in current issues, in musicology, for example, we leave the students to choose from anything, basically, that they're interested in, and they can explore their own interests. So it's not practice-based, but there is a lot of their own input into what it goes into the research. And then, of course, I forgot to say this, they have to write a dissertation now at this stage during the summer. So yeah, mostly they have to write a lot. So, but there is room for discussion, and as Kieran said before, we do talk about music analysis because it is in the origins of musicology. But we don't expect students to know music analysis. It's more about how we can have a discussion of how much music analysis is still helpful or not when we talk about music. And engaging and understanding music through different perspectives. So as I think, also Stark said, it's good to start reading a bit before coming. No, you don't need to do anything before coming to to the course, but it's good to maybe look at the programs and see, okay, I've never read this kind of thing before. Maybe I want to familiarize with these topics. And I think it helps, especially if you come from a different background.
Yeah, and I'd say from the music industry's perspective, this is a very academic thing to say, but like, what do we mean by practice? How do we define that term? There's, for me, when we think about how practical is each program alongside the academic and research elements, well, similar to Vera, the music industry's degree, you will be writing essays. We also have some other forms of assessment, like making a podcast or doing a video essay where we're trying to align the form of assessment more with what a content creator might do, and trying to think about how to use those different formats to communicate your points and make an argument. But when you think back to the question about career destinations and thinking about, okay, like what jobs exist in music, quote unquote, most of the career destinations that I see for the students, at least the ones that have employers, so I like have a LinkedIn profile where they're linking to a particular company, they're not being on stage all the time or creating sounds all the time. Often this is desk work actually, and a career in music might be whether it's artist management or doing sync and publishing or sales or working at a charity in the third sector. A lot of that's about this is just unfortunately adult life, being behind a computer, organizing stuff, and then going out and making something happen. So I think that idea of practice, take the popular music history course, for instance. I could spend a whole semester teaching all sorts of highfalutin notions about history in the abstract, but what I try to do and what I think is useful for my students is link that, link the curriculum to the question of what is it like to work in music in a practical sense, and how does this change over time? And when we think about popular music history with that as our kind of starting premise, suddenly, although we're not out in the field per se, we are having quite concrete discussions about musical livelihoods and how to navigate those. So for me, that is actually closer to how you might be making sense of a career in music outside of the university in any case. I don't know if any of the students wanted to chip in here with some thoughts on this practice versus academic question. Stark, Hinton, Kieran, any thoughts? Stark?
Yeah, I've got the creative sound design and the audiovisual media is basically, you can say, more focused onto the practical area. As Professor Nix has said, that there's this one course, one module, which is thinking through sound and media, is having the approach of a more philosophical way, more research-based way. But apart from that, the maximum of the course is working on to the practical zone, which is one thing I'm going to add into it. That is, we do have a bit of a research into it in between in all of those areas. It's like, okay, so there was this, and the last time we had a course, which was like creative sound and media performances, which was directly handled by Professor Nick himself. So in this, basically, we are just working as a band, as a group, more precisely making sounds. Now, however, this looks very practical. Indeed, it is practical. But we are doing our researches as well at the sideline. We were just trying to read more about different people's work, get more ideas, and see how can we incorporate those ideas and those ways into our own work. So this is, I personally believe that all the courses into this specific, all the modules in this course is having a bit of a research into it, but they helps you to make your work more good, more experimental, which gives you you can just say a path. Okay, you can do this as well, you can do that as well, and then you can choose which is very right for you, which is very good for you. So yeah, that's my take personally on this course.
Thanks, Stark. Hinton?
Yeah, if I may add to it. So, like Matt, you mentioned that we have different types of assignments, even in music industries, like making podcasts, making video essays, and also the global music industries, the course Global Music Industries has a very good knowledge and provides you a good understanding of the entire contemporary challenges facing the industries. So, even if you're a creator by yourself, you want to develop a better understanding about the entire music field, the course would actually equip you to be self-sufficient in pursuing your own career as a musician. At the same time, every course has very strong embedded research elements into it, so that you know what you're exactly, you know in depth what you're exactly doing, what you're exactly going to do. And at the same time, since the Music Cities has the gives you the opportunity to provide and make your own music reports on cities, so if you're actually finding or looking for practical jobs in cultural sphere policy aspects, it actually gives you that hand-on experience on how to make music pitches, how to assess infrastructure in different cities. So it's not only about performance-based practice, but like practice can be found in different aspects of the music industry itself.
That's super helpful. Thanks so much. Kieran, I'm going to ask you a different question. But before I do, there's a very specific technical question that's appeared in the chat, and it's directly for Nick. And that is, in creative sound design and audiovisual media, what softwares are used? So
Yeah,
I don't
so
know. Quick answer from Nick.
just very briefly, the main software we use for many tasks is Reaper, the digital audio workstation, and that's kind of used as our go-to sort of workhorse digital audio workstation. We also look at software like Max, Cycling 74's Max for doing interactive things. There's also some use of Adobe software here and there for audiovisual work. But we also encourage students to sort of experiment with software. There's lots and lots of other software out there, and if you have your own kind of established creative workflows with Ableton or other workstations and other software, then you have opportunities to use that as well and build on that existing workflow. So we're not trying to get you to change your workflow entirely, but there will be chances to experiment more with different forms of software.
That's brilliant. Thanks, Nick. We're moving to the end of the session just now, and I wanted to leave the final word, if we could, to the students, actually. And I'll start with Kieran, but ask the same question of all three. Just about any advice for future students, things that you know now that you didn't when you were applying that you think might be useful. So, Kieran, any thoughts on that?
I'd maybe suggest, well, that this is what I've personally done, and I feel like it's really helped with getting me towards this point of starting to work towards dissertation. Was if you've got any kind of initial ideas or directions that you want to go with this research, where you want to kind of build towards this big project at the end of the year of doing a dissertation, work them out in the first semester. I kind of filtered. I tried to push this one idea into every module in the first semester, just to kind of work out these ideas. And I kind of found that I wasn't too keen on maybe that kind of that subject anymore after doing it for that one semester. And I feel like even if you like do stick with that idea, it lets you kind of get a back and get all this research and reading and try and glue it into whatever kind of wrong shape hole that you can. So that when you get to the second semester, which is a lot more kind of diverse and the kind of different subjects in musicology that you're looking at, you've got a breath of fresh air. You can take a break from this initial research and try out new ideas. And then you might find, like I did towards the end, that you can maybe take that initial idea that I think I was looking at metal music and cultural identity, and then I'm trying to like work that into some stuff about like biodiversity and animals, and it's just I think try out your ideas first, and then you might find something new, and I think it really opens you up to these extra modules. Also, I'd recommend not sticking with solely just music based, the kind of extra modules that aren't like core courses. Like you can, like, so useful, so great, because I've done like popular music politics in the past with in my undergraduate, but like taking ones that are like mainly like art focused, or even more a broad one, like I've done Matt's class on genders, and it really gives you this kind of external information, so you're not in this almost not that it's quite, because musicology is so diverse, but not as much of a like ecodrome of just music stuff. You get external disciplines perspective on the same research topics, which is useful.
That's great. Thanks, Kieran. Hitting briefly, any advice for future students?
Right. So my only advice is to, firstly, yeah, University of Glasgow, and Glasgow is a great place if you want to pursue a career and your studies in music. And so my advice would be the first 2 semesters, it's, if you're not from a music background, if you're not used to a lot of academic readings, you're going to have to manage your time and put in effort, because these 2 semesters, what I found out, were very formative for when you want to pursue your dissertation later. And to strike a fair enough balance between your own practice of music and what is your what your course demands you to do. So we don't want to make a compromise on our own personal practice as well as your course studies. So once we are doing that, I think that time management and creating a proper balance, I think, and to look out for work and networking with people, that's really great, because Glasgow gives you the opportunity. People you come across in the street, you would never even guess what they're actually doing, but they're actually doing amazing things that are all related to music. So I would say that keeping the watch out for all these amazing networks and maintaining a proper time management routine, that's actually the key to it.
Brilliant. Thanks, Heaton. Stark, any final thoughts?
Yeah, so I'm just gonna say I use this term a lot more than my thank you and my sorries, and that is being experimental. Be that, because before coming up here, I was a very specific guy, rigid guy, you can say. So I've got ideas, we work on it, and I believe every artist work on their ideas, but they don't become very experimental. They have a flow, they have a rhythm. Every person have it. And ever since I came up here, I became a lot more experimental, because I believe there is nothing like wrong move. There is nothing like failure. Everything is just an experiment. It might work out, it might not work out, and that's all right. So, yeah. Thank you.
Okay, very wise words, I think. And with that, I think we're just about done here with this session. So thanks to everyone for your contributions. Thanks very much to our current students on the different degrees for taking the time to provide your perspectives. And thanks to folks for asking your questions. That was really useful discussion, I think. So yes, thanks very much to everyone for being part of today's event, and hope to see you on campus in September.